let's jump in. We're back. I think about a year ago in April was the last time we recorded a podcast.
Yep. And then you deleted multiple and said, I suck. That's basically what happened. She got so mad at me because when I'm actually thinking and trying to be contemplative, I talk a little quieter and she gets so mad at me. So I don't know how to think loud.
I think loud. My quiet voice is loud. I just realized who I would rather marry. Somebody with a radio voice.
There's a cost to that.
There is. So we are going to talk about what we've been learning from our bathroom project.
It's filthy.
I know. Just don't think about it. This is where the kids have tea parties. We're going to talk about our fight. So let's take a backdrop of how we decided to do the bathroom in the first place.
Well, that was the start of the fight, I think. Because of different...
That was not the start.
Well, it set the roots in my mind of the start of the fight because...
Well, let's back them up. Our house has 1.5 baths. It has a toilet in the basement.
Now it has more. But yes
now
that's
it has
what we're
more.
working.
Thought about, do we want to put an egress in the basement? Do we want to we have a few projects to do around the house, and
we haven't spent a lot of time doing anything on this house because we've been prepping to build up north, which is the sort of subject. It's all part of the fight, I guess. But so I haven't done a whole lot in the last 1.5 years except redo the floor in the kids' room and put a window in the kitchen.
We haven't really done much in probably 5 years, really.
Yeah.
After our bathroom, which is fine. Trim is crazy and we don't care. But we thought if we are going to take the next steps towards moving somewhere where CPS won't be called on us, sounds bad, but you know what I mean. If you know, you know. Possibly up north, etc. So in order to do that, we would want the house to be ready. So we got to start taking steps now.
Yes.
So it was decided, I'm not going to put any more into that. It was decided that the best bang for our buck at this point was a second full bath.
Yes.
In the basement. Just jumped into it. We're both activators.
And this goes into the start of the fight with my notion, right? So Anna said, she's like, we were talking about this and the projects to do around the house. And she said, well, I think we should do the one in the basement. That was what we decided on. And so but because Anna brought it up, I was under the impression, I subconsciously was like, oh, because Anna wants a bathroom. That's just the way it was. Now, that wasn't the reality, but that's how I interpreted it because she was the one that brought it up. So I'm like, oh, she wants me to do a bathroom. Let's go. So I'm very much a kind of person, I just get started. I get to wait.
So he's down there. He's doing measurements.
Yeah.
He's doing measurements. I think it's important to spell this out. Moving up north is his dream, but I'm mostly on board with it. I struggle with some ideas of it, and I think I would struggle with actually doing it, but I'm on board. Picture somebody on board 2 ships. That's me with my legs split. But I'm willing to take a step of faith and trust. Mm-hmm. So what we're thinking is, if we were to be up north, then we would want to probably rent this house. Mm-hmm. And so what would make it more rentable is another bedroom, but for sure another bath. For the growth of our family into the dreams that Michael wants to do, I was like, let's do the bathroom because that makes the most sense. Yes. And we have 4 kids. We're getting to the point where we could legitimately use for ourselves another bathroom. We don't necessarily need another bedroom because a kid probably won't sleep in there for years. Michael gets started and he starts measuring things out. And it wasn't like we had this set plan. It really evolved as we went because Michael's like, oh, we can't put this here because of that and this. And
it was a lot of just figuring out what to do.
Yes.
Because we have constraints. It's an existing basement, right? With a lot of existing stuff and need to maintain clearance of the furnace and all the stuff just creates part of it.
When honestly, in my head, when I pictured a downstairs bathroom, I thought it was just going to be this tight, just total, what's the word? Utilitarian, just
like a small
bathroom. So there wasn't much choice. I pictured stand-up shower, a little sink, a toilet. That's it, because that's all you really need. But the best layout ended up being a rectangular shape.
A little bigger. It's about the same size as the one we have upstairs.
So it's definitely a decent size. Well, then all of a sudden, can't we put a bathtub in here?
And I was already a couple states away with how far I was in my in my planning, which that's the part of the problem, right? I'm thinking so far ahead already
Yeah.
and not inviting you into that process.
And then not only was he not inviting me in, he was telling me we couldn't have a bathtub was because
First, it was because that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. And nobody puts a tub in the basement. That way.
we spent about 20 minutes talking about that. Because he also gave me a statistic of how many basements he's been in. Thousands, folks. This man has frequented many a basement, and not one of them had a tub. So statistically speaking.
So no one has a tub in the basement.
Now, I did a quick poll on Facebook, and a lot of people sent me pictures of their tubs, but clearly he hasn't been in your basement.
That's correct.
But then you did throw in there, it just won't work, or I would have to do this. So I ultimately heeded to your.
So yeah, eventually I said, well, then I have to add an extra wall. It's more screwing around with the plumbing, and it's for me, it's just I need to create an extra wall, an extra access panel, and I'm trying to do this as fast as I can because time is limited too. The goal is to get the project done before summer because in summer we're not home a lot.
Well,
and it's not just my stuff up north. We're just not home that much in summer. We have a lot.
And I don't want to be home a lot in summer either. But also now recently when I'm like, should we get it done? You're like, well, we don't have to.
We don't have to.
But in the beginning, when I was asking for a tub, it was very important to stay on the path that I didn't know we were on.
And there's a lot in my head.
Yes.
There's time constraints. There's when am I going to have time to do this? What works out well with a lot of external factors that Anna's not thinking about when it comes to building and saw cutting, removal of concrete, and timing of that with other things I had available to me at the time. It worked out good to do this now. Well, if I'm going to do it now, I need a tub now so I can get the exact dimensions for the drain now.
Not a tub. He needs the base.
I meant if a base or a bathtub. I need to get it today. It was literally like, I got to get it now if I'm going to get this done.
So I was like, are you really sure we can't do a tub? And then it was like, no, we can't. I was like, okay. And then
did I say no, we can't, or I don't want to do a tub?
Well, he definitely said, I don't want to do a tub. And then he also said, nobody goes into a basement to make a bath. And who goes into a basement to take a bath? A mom.
Trying to escape her children.
So this is also the very important part. So you guys don't just think I'm a psycho. I love baths.
He loves baths.
And he knows that. Remember our honeymoon?
That's why I didn't want a bath.
I made him spend 5 hours in the tub, and he hasn't gone.
I haven't taken a bath.
For real, he doesn't like baths. I love baths, and I legitimately don't take baths now because it's upstairs and it's the main bathroom and all the kids see it. So I want to take baths, and I would take baths. But also, as at play is, I never pictured that there could be a tub in the basement, so it wasn't a thing.
And I think I was just taken off guard too.
But then once I saw the layout, it is made for a tub. It's a rectangle, so a tub can go right here. Yeah. I'm not saying that there isn't more work. I'm just saying that I didn't realize that it was starting to build and that I was wanting it so much, and I was really starting to have feelings around it.
Yes.
Because then all of a sudden we're at the store. Really, you sure we can't get a tub?
Something in your nose.
Oh, really? You're sure we can't?
It's still there. I gotta clean it out. That's better.
Really, you sure we can't get a tub? No, we can't. We gotta stay the course. Well, we get home, and this is the crux. Now, it was a pain getting the concrete out. He had to do a lot in concrete because if you build a house, you can build the plumbing in. The concrete was already there. He had to cut it. You take it out, and it's really messy. So he was doing that, and it was not a fun project. And then we had lunch. And it was like, I'm ready to move these big concrete pieces up the stairs.
Yep.
But we need to clear a path because it was just the kids had gotten out of control with their toys. And it was on my radar to clean. And so in my head, when I thought clear the path, I thought, I need to clean this anyways. I'm going to do it right. Not a 20-minute deep clean, but a 5-minute. Let me gather stuff, bring up what needs to go up. So I'm going to pile that there and do it. That's what I had in mind. Michael has something different in mind. So I go down to, Michael goes, we're done with lunch. We're commissioned to do our work. And all of a sudden, I'm cleaning and piling stuff up to move it. And Eliezer has a dirty diaper. So Michael goes, Anna, Eliezer needs a diaper change. And he's in all the concrete stuff. So
I changed a lot of dirty diapers,
Yes.
but I was just very filthy at the time. So.
he changes most of them, to be honest. I wait till he gets home. Oh, weird.
No wonder why Eliezer has a rash.
No, but yes, he does change a lot of diapers. But it obviously made sense for me to do it. So I come up. And so I am changing
His son.
Yes, this says a lot. Our son's poopy diaper. And he's sitting, and all of a sudden I hear, what did I hear, honey?
How did I say that?
Honey, I love you, but...
And then she blew it.
That was it. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm changing a diaper. You didn't even give me any time. And what it was you just wanted things to be scooted over to the side.
I just needed a path.
Why did you say I love you, honey, but?
Because when I came out of the bathroom with the concrete, there was more stuff in the bath than when I went in. And I was like, what happened? So I was like, this makes no sense.
Yeah.
That was the reason for my statement.
Bird's eye view. He's totally right. It looks huge.
One thing I want.
It's a huge character flaw. To have a wife makes things worse when she cleans. I understand how that could warrant a very respectful annoyance statement. Like, you even did say it nicely, because if that would have been me, I would have been like, are you flipping kidding me? But that set me off. And then I went on probably a 2-minute rant about how inappropriate. Why are you laughing, honey?
Because of the clarity. The clarity that comes with hindsight.
And then I realized I was reacting disproportionately to the situation. Yeah. And in my head, I'm thinking, why are you so mad about this? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm sure it'll come to me. But what it really ended up realizing was that situation embodied the problem, where everything was so flippin' fast. And he is 3 steps ahead of me. I am trying to keep up. He's 3 steps ahead of me, thinking I'm right next to him, and I'm not. And then when it comes to things that actually are important to me, honestly, and this is where I was really feeling hurt, because it was like, I don't have a strong opinion about hardly anything when it comes to building, except a tub.
And when you first brought it up, I thought it was in jest, and I didn't even think it was. And then I think as we went on, you realized it was important. And I was like, oh my gosh, I did not realize that this was so important to you.
And I didn't realize that it was so important to me. The reality is we went into the project with no budget and no floor plan. He says he showed it to me. I have video footage of the last time I saw it.
The only reason I'm saying that I showed it to you is I had the cabinet laid out in the little squares on an Excel plan, and you said, what's that there? And I said, oh, we can make that anything. It could be storage, it could be anything. And so that's why I'm saying I had to have shown this to you, because you told me specifically, you asked a question about the floor plan.
I have a really good memory. It's just my memory. If there was this quick question about that, which I believe him, he's probably right. I probably did look at that. It's not like we sat down and got to look at it.
Yes, Anna's not used to looking at plans either. Versus me, I'm very used to understanding
You're so smart.
a plan. That's my job, to look at blueprints. So I know how to look at a blueprint. It is probably much harder to, and you're not good with pictures. It's a lot harder for you to visualize.
No, it's not just that. What I remember seeing last is it was 3/4 done. And you saying, do you want it? Well, I'll do it to scale. And I was like, well, that doesn't matter. I do not visualize things at all. I'm not a decorative person. This is so out of my realm. I'll film something. I'll make something in the kitchen. I will go cut grass. But when it comes to anything building, that's just not my wheelhouse. And it doesn't make sense for me to try for it to be my wheelhouse.
Mhm.
So a lot of it has to denote to him. But then when the things do affect me, we're realizing that we don't have any sort of system set up to actually bring me in on the level that I need to or should to. And
the things that matter to
Yes.
you. And I think for us, we're starting to learn too what matters to you and what you could care less about, right?
98% of it I could care less.
And so that's what it's hard to navigate that.
Well, here's the reality. If you could probably just go ahead and do it, and I probably seriously wouldn't care because your style isn't bad or anything. But if you're asking,
Because I was asking for your
I might
opinion.
say, oh, well, maybe do we want to go with the brass? Let me look up some stuff. I can look up some stuff and I can be a part of that. But at the end of the day, what I ended up realizing too is, who are we kidding? We're going to do this the cheapest and fastest way possible. It kind of doesn't matter because I actually don't want to stick a ton of money into it because who goes into a basement bathroom anyways? But I think going into it, we don't have a budget set for this, but we do have money from like an investment savings that we could pull from, but then we're pulling from an investment savings. I also thought going into it, we might have a little money to play around with, which we've never had money to play around with.
It's the balance. We do, but we choose to do other things with that money.
If money's going into our basement, it's not going somewhere else.
And I think it's just, we didn't have a clear idea of how much we were going to shuffle into one place versus another.
Yes. What should happen in a project and this is what was driving me nuts was I would be like, you're working, client that you're building for has seen floor plans, has seen everything drawn out, and they have approved it before you even start building. You already are building and we still don't know some of this stuff, and then you're bringing me into it, but then you've already made choices. And it was like this extremely frustrating situation that would keep getting brought up. And then
you'd keep getting wounded by feeling that what you had to say really didn't matter because I already had things preventing you from getting what you wanted.
Yes. And then a huge aspect of this was I don't necessarily want to move up north. Anna's dream would be to buy a house outside of the area we currently live in with land. And there's just no money for that, but there is money and time for Michael's pursuits. So then even when something like the bathroom does come in, like the one thing I might say is, can we have a tub? No, he doesn't want to do it. Well, I'm willing to move up north for you, and you aren't willing to put a tub in for me. So I think super legitimate.
I think that's the heart of your feeling, and was never. I think that's what's so interesting, because if I would have known that, or you would have said it that way, it would have been a non-issue for me to put the tub in. I thought we were more, because it started in jest, right? And then it went to, it's kind of snowballed because of not understanding how meaningful it was.
And we said, we both didn't realize it. And so I think to really, I don't want to say put it like an end cap on this conversation because we're not done, but something I really want to pull out here is that this bathroom project didn't create a problem. It brought it out. And it revealed our lack of communication. It revealed a level of self-awareness, that lacking self-awareness, especially for myself. It revealed that we don't have a good enough communication around our future and around what we desire together. Because I think it's very normal. We've been married 8 years, which in some senses feels like a lot, but in most senses, that's not a lot. And I think the statistics say that it almost takes 15 years to truly become one. So I think you can either look at the fights, and it's not just like a fight, it's that ongoing fight that you keep circling back to. You could see it as a horrible thing, but really what we've learned is it is probably the best thing for our marriage this past year because it brought out so much. It's like a zit. It just, I love popping zits. It didn't create the problem. It just got it out. That's maybe not a good example.
The zit imagery is not something
I loved it.
I think everybody would be
One person in the
interested
marriage likes to pop zits. The other person in the marriage doesn't. Prove me wrong. I feel like everybody marries the opposite. It's one or the other.
The other people just aren't married anymore.
So I think that's a huge takeaway for the fights is quit looking at it as a problem and be thankful that you have a playground to help exercise this out and learn from it.
And I think it's interesting because it goes back to my wedding vows to you. And I remember I wrote that, and I said to you, I will involuntarily hurt you. And
What a man.
the point being is I'll do a lot of things that I have absolutely zero ill feelings towards you about. Because I told you this morning, I can't think of one bad thing about you. And it's like, in a woman, if you ask how many things could I change about me, she could probably name off 10 of them. And I'm like, I can think of nothing that you need to change. And so it's interesting because I don't know if it's an aloofness in men, specifically me, or inability to foresee the problem, right? And know that it would have been a problem. But it is very interesting that I've always known that I would involuntarily cause you a lot of pain.
Well, and my vows were to take my susceptibly cold heart to the Lord and work on that. So that's what I had
That's
to
definitely
do.
the Cliff Note versions of her wedding vows. There's like a book.
It's a scroll. I should burn those, see?
No,
And take away all the promises. We would have a fight. There would be feelings, hard feelings, sad feelings. And then we would talk about it, and then it felt like, oh, that's good. It got relieved. And then it would happen again.
Because we never really had true resolution.
We didn't have true resolution. I think we just got to a point of peace about it and it was good enough. But then, so it felt like this ongoing fight. And it got to the point where I was like, how will we just ever get over this? This just feels like, and wasn't being dramatic, but it just felt like this is just, can we ever truly reach a resolution? Because we're very different in this sense and your dreams and stuff. And so I finally decided to pray about it. Really, not just pray, but listen, ask it, pray, and then shut up. And I've been really trying to focus on that, listening and hearing from God every day. So we were supposed to go on a date, and this is when we went out for fish. And
is that the time you cried the whole time? No, that was at the Mexican restaurant.
Oh,
yeah. This was also during this time. But
do you remember what that was about?
Same thing.
But this is the second date I was about to cry on.
Oh, this was recent.
So I think the final, what helped us work through it was I asked God, what do you think about this? And what do you want me to do with Michael, your child? And what do you want me to do with your son? And I felt the words forgiveness and grace come immediately to mind, which was not Anna. And I'm like, and then I think I asked, but what does that mean? What should I do? And I felt then immediately the words, believe him, just came to my head. I didn't hear it audible, but just believe him flashed in my mind. And I was like, believe him. What does that mean? And I just felt God say, you'll know. And
so God was really telling her that I did show her the floor plans.
No, that is not what God was meaning for that. Well, in a sense, yes, but I know. But in the conversation, what it was he was sharing how he just truly didn't know. Because the cycle of our fights would be, I would share something, you would give me your answer, and the whole rest of the conversation would be me talking about how stupid you were and berating you for it, essentially. Maybe I'm being extreme, but
maybe not the whole rest of the conversation, but
a lot of it would be me saying, yes, but this, and rationalizing my point. And then you would say, well, honey, I hear you, but it feels like I don't get to say anything because your feelings just come in and trump everything. And then I go, because I cannot believe why you would even think that. So, because one of the things, an example of that, just, I don't care if you think I'm psycho, but for one of the things he said, why he got frustrated with me with the whole, when we got in the fight with the concrete thing or whatever, was, well, I'm doing this bathroom for you.
And I already spoiled that with what I've said earlier.
But God was saying, believe him. So when he was explaining to me why I wouldn't believe him, and I'd be like, are you kidding me? This bathroom for me? Because I suggested it last? Because we're talking about how to move up north for your dream. And I thought, well, let's do the bathroom. And if this is for me, then you're a really big gift giver because I want a tub. On every level. So that's the theme of what kept just circulating. And we couldn't purge out because I felt like he just didn't understand. We would talk and his mouth would say the right things, and then 3 days later he would say something else, and I was like, you don't get it. That's what it felt. And then I would have these strong feelings, then he would give a response, then I would have a strong feeling back, and he'd be like, see, I don't even feel like we can talk because your strong feelings come in. And I do feel like when we would get to a good spot where I could say, you're right, I'm sorry, or we couldn't get to that spot yet. So fast forward to the date where God gave me the guidance, believe him. When we were talking, it hit me. When he was saying these stuff, when he was sharing his reasoning, whether or not I agreed with it, I needed to believe him. Because Michael wasn't lying. He wasn't trying to sabotage our marriage. He wasn't out to get me. He's truly just didn't know. And believe him and don't berate him for not knowing or doing something wrong, right? So that was a key point, turning point in this saga, was believing him. So then we would still have some conversations about it. And then now how it looks now is like, you can say, well, honey, I just feel like, this. And I will say on the spot, you're right. I'm sorry. I said that wrong. I shouldn't have said that. Let me reword that. And then let's start talking again. Right?
Sure. Maybe a little bit more specific than that. That's, I would say, the general.
It's where we still have some tense moments where it's just some friction, but we're not getting hung up in it. Last night we were talking about what we wanted to talk about today, and it just brought up a point where there is this person on Instagram who I think he absolutely means well, and I think he absolutely helps a group of men who are just totally clueless to their wives. And what we even talked about, I think this is an example of that dynamic where the man is off in La La Land, the woman's really hurt, and then it eventually just ends in the woman just shutting down and wanting to leave and end in divorce because she's tried and she's given so much and it just goes kaputs. But to be honest, most of the time I'm reading his stuff as a woman. I'm not even resonating with it as a woman. I'm thinking, but what is the woman doing in this? And so I think, Michael, you can give advice to a man and what you learned from this. And in this example of really hard things that really hurt the marriage, I feel like Michael can be a dink in whatever he wants to be a dink in. But what is my reaction to that? And I can only control my reaction to him. Yeah. And even if he did something 99% wrong, what is that 1% that I need to own 100%? And that's kind of a theme. We talk about that, and you're good at that. But I was like, and so really what I focus on after that, believe him and stuff, I started to focus on my reaction in a fight, my reactions to things he says, because I could see how I was making it very unsafe for him to even share anything. So that's what I would say, and say, women, yes, your man might be aloof and ignorant to certain things, but in some ways that can be blessings to us. We don't necessarily want them to be like us. And two, what are you really doing to contribute to the atmosphere of the things? I'm not saying this doesn't mean that there aren't men out there who are way off, and that sort of talk is truly helpful, but I can just speak to myself and my experience, and I had a lot to own in this. Even though I felt hurt, I had a lot to own in my response to being hurt. What do you think, honey?
I've never watched it. So
no, what do you think about what your takeaway was in this and what you
No, I think, one, I do need to, because I'm not thinking in these meta narratives of overall
meta narratives,
our marriage and you feeling, I didn't consider any of that at all when it came to the tub or the bathroom decision. I was like, well, what can I get done the quickest and fastest? That was in my mind, and then I'm off to the races, right? And in that, I think it's that part of becoming one of, I don't realize how much things affect you. And because everything does affect each other, there's no difference between us in terms of finances, time, right? All them things are shared together. And so for me, I think it is more important for me to think about that with you and really try to be intentional with setting aside time for you, which I do think I've done an okay job of giving you weekends and I'll take all the kids or whatever. But I think what it is giving you time or giving you an opinion or vision on other things that I don't think you normally care about, and giving you the opportunity still to be involved in them, because that was a lot of it. I just didn't think you cared. And so I was like, let's go. And also taking that step back, and because the budgeting thing I wasn't that worried about because I knew we had the money. It was just what we're gonna like that stuff.
Okay, he says that, and I know that too. But then when we are looking at our bills for the month, and we've spent $1,000 out of, we don't have 1,000 budgeted into our account, and then you have this energy. Oh my gosh, how are we gonna pay this? And it's like you and I both know we have money to pay this, but it feels like the stress then almost comes on me. Can I not be buying groceries this month? And
yes, and that's another part of the aspect of the fight as well. I think is just having them clear expectations around the costs, and sometimes I don't even include you in on so many of my thoughts about that stuff, because I do. That's all part of my pre-planning that you're just not involved with, and you should be. And so I need to do a better job of communicating that to you. And in general, I think for me, it was just communication could have been much more clear.
With that, one of the things that can help you guys and that we got away from was having a marriage meeting.
Yes, a weekly marriage business meeting.
Really just covers just 5 to 6 things that you can talk about each week and set in. And when we first started it, I think the first 2 weeks, it took hours to really go through. But you can do it more than weekly. You can hold a meeting
daily.
You can have a meeting. Wisdom will tell us the busier you are, the more stressed you are, the more check-ins you should have. And we were getting away from those.
And we didn't do check-ins.
Everywhere from the budget and the finances and stuff to just the bigger plans. So we really were slacking on communication, and that's what this revealed. And so it was really good. But I can definitely include that PDF, and we can do that. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. We can share that in another time.
I think
this is a different topic about you getting mad at me again. So actually all these other ones on here about you getting mad at me.
That was in case we needed good content. Thanks everybody for Raz and Clam family. Follow, subscribe. Please share this with somebody. It really does make a difference. And we have a link in the show notes for something, so it'll be in there. All right, goodbye.
Bye.
Oh, geez.
Funny.
Join us next time for Rise and Climb.